Hi there, I'm Matt Keene. Thanks for visiting Creating a Future We Want, the Our Learning series, where I share just a little bit about our learning, our education, and our family. I have girls that are 5 and 9, and a wife who is a little older than that. And some of the stuff, I just share a little bit about what we're talking about recently. One of the things recently is that I never said anything in school. If I had any chance, like in grade school, I would sit at the back and I would never raise my hand. And if someone like called on me, a teacher, I guess usually that's the only person calling on anybody, I would feel so anxious and like did not enjoy it at all. I mean, if you give the right answer, you get a that's right. Maybe that feels good to somebody. I don't know. It didn't really do much for me the few times I said anything. And then if you get it wrong, you're like, nope, you want to try again? Da 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 da. And then if you don't get it right, they ask someone else, and of course they get it right. And so you're the one who didn't, and they did, and that just feels awful. So I just never saw any, like the downside so far outweighed the upside by like raising my hand and answering a question. In college, I was the same way. I always sat in the back, never said a word. I even would pretend to not know anything. Like I would, in my chemistry class, I had the hardest professor, Professor Glanville, in chemistry, and like 300 or 400 people in the class, and I had heard it was the hardest class, so I'm going to work extremely hard. And I mean, I did pretty well in that class, and I think I got like all the questions right on all the tests. And Professor Glanville said, and we've got somebody in the class. There were a few people who did very well, and they said my name. And then my lab partners, who I'd been in lab with, sitting at the same table with, they looked at me like, what's the deal with you? You didn't say a thing the entire semester. It seemed like you had no idea what was going on. Yeah, like, what's the upside? I mean, you're like, either you draw the ire, he's a know-it-all. You like draw the ire of folks for being a know-it-all, and then they're like, oh, he's a know-it-all. Let's go get his help with the homework or whatever. So I would always avoid like trying to give correct answers. The whole process that I was indoctrinated in, it was a cut and dry sort of dualistic sort of thing, yes and no and stop and go, and not a fluid, dynamic learning conversational praxis, right? That whole cut and dry yes no, one person authority, one expert in the room, it inhibited developing a conversational praxis. I mean, I wasn't taught to have conversations. I was taught like to be quiet, or at least for an introverted, intrinsically motivated person, that's how I reacted to that scenario. That approach, or that time, or that approach, it was kind of like you're trying to get 100% on the test to get all the questions right, and someone say, yes, you are correct, is sort of what the assessment approach would be. Now our assessment approach needs to be more like, how can we assess the flexibility in this situation? How can we assess diversity? How can we assess interdependence, or the network structure of the system, or how someone, or partnerships? How can we assess these? To do this, we're going to have to converse. We're going to have conversations, and we're going to have to get really good at them, so they're this fluid and dynamic, multiple perspectives, multiplicity of perspectives. We're going to need this in order to assess whether or not students, pupils, all of us are learning. That's going to take conversation. It's going to take work. I'm Matt Keene. Thanks for visiting Creating a Future We Want. What's your vision for a future of conversations for well-being?